TV7 Israel News is made possible thanks to your generous donation. Shalom, Erev Tov, good evening. Welcome to our daily TV7 Israel News Bulletin, broadcast from Jerusalem. U.S. President Donald Trump asserts that he and Prime Minister Netanyahu are mostly aligned vis-à-vis Iran. Tensions simmer between Saudi Arabia and the Houthis in Yemen. And the United States blames China over the delivery of military components in support of the Houthis in Yemen. Prime Minister Netanyahu arrived in Washington late last night ahead of a meeting with U.S. President Donald Trump, which was scheduled for 6 p.m. at the White House earlier today. Ahead of boarding his aircraft alongside his wife Sarah, Prime Minister Netanyahu stressed the importance of his visit.
This is my 8th meeting with him since he was elected president for his 2nd term, more than any other international leader. This is a great privilege, but it is also a great responsibility. From my experience as Prime Minister, during these complex times we must act with both great determination and great wisdom. We will discuss all the issues on the agenda, first and foremost, Iran. Naturally, our goal is to safeguard our security and also to expand the circle of peace around us. I am embarking on this mission with one clear goal: to ensure the security, strength, and future of our dear state of Israel.
It is important to know that Prime Minister Netanyahu is reportedly expected to share intelligence with President Trump, indicating that Iran is building nuclear facilities at Pickaxe Mountain. According to the report that was leaked to the New York Times, the intelligence proves that the Iranian regime is lying about its genuine desire to continue to negotiate, and that it is currently not negotiating in good faith. Meanwhile, aboard Air Force One, U.S. President Donald Trump, who seemingly faces significant pressure to end the war with Iran from almost every possible direction, was asked by a reporter whether he was frustrated with War Secretary Pete Hegseth over the top Pentagon official's pre-war advice to persecute the war against the terrorist Ayatollah regime in Iran.
On the Iran war, have you been frustrated with Secretary Hegseth because of the advice he gave you early on in the war and how it's turned out?
I think he's done a great job. We've pretty much destroyed their military. They want to meet, and we're meeting. We'll see what happens. There's a chance we could make a deal. Without what we did, they wouldn't even be talking to us. They requested a meeting through their surrogates and directly. And we're meeting, and, good things can happen. But no, they requested a meeting. They would not have requested the meeting if we were doing poorly. The only reason they want to meet is because we've been hitting them very hard. Yeah.
How much patience do you have left with Iran, sir?
I have plenty of time. Plenty of time. Their whole shoreline's wiped out. The strait is in very good shape. And we're talking right now. They wanted to talk. Their people said, please don't shoot last night, the night before, 2 nights. Don't do it. We're having good talks. So we'll see what happens. I think there's a good chance that something could happen. And if it does, good. If it doesn't, we go back to doing what we were doing 2 days ago.
A separate reporter asked further whether President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu were on the same page vis-à-vis Iran.
Are you on the same page on Iran, you and Prime Minister Netanyahu?
Close, yeah, pretty close. We have a little difference, but pretty close, yeah. Iran took a beating over the last 14 days, and they asked us very nicely, please stop, let's meet. And that's what we are right now. We'll see what happens. If we don't make a deal, we go back to the same thing.
President Trump was further asked about an uptick in violence between the Iranian proxy Ansar Allah, which is dominated by the Houthi tribe in Yemen, and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia.
The Houthis, are you concerned about the disruptions?
We're dealing with Saudi Arabia, and it's a problem that we had a while ago, and we knocked the hell out of them, as you know. And we didn't have any problems with the Houthis after that. But we're not involved with that, but we may, if they're a problem, we'll probably have to get involved.
Well, in Saudi Arabia, Arabia. Have you gotten any indications from Saudi Arabia when it comes to the Abraham Accords that they will sign on?
We haven't talked about that.
It is important to explain that the escalating violence between the Houthis and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia occurred when the Saudi-backed Yemeni government, which is also the internationally recognized government by the United Nations, struck the runways of Sana'a International Airport on July the 13th in response to an attempt by the Islamic Republic of Iran to land a cargo aircraft, which carried both munitions and RGC advisors earmarked for the Houthis. Subsequently, the Houthi leadership accused the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia itself of carrying the airstrike, dubbing it a blatant aggression, and immediately retaliated with ballistic missiles and drones against the kingdom's southwestern Abha International Airport. Moreover, Houthi leader Abdel-Malik al-Houthi threatened Saudi Arabia to avoid retaliating over the Iranian proxy's blatant aggression, which effectively broke a multi-year informal truce and demanded an immediate lifting of a blockade that sought to restrict munitions from entering Houthi-controlled areas, which, according to the Iranian proxy, has now lasted for roughly 11 years.
The situation would be completely different. If it persists with the blockade and moves toward full-scale aggression, we will spare no effort in confronting it with everything we have and everything we will possess. With Allah's help and putting our trust in Him. He is the best supporter and protector. All Saudi oil facilities and vital installations are targets for our missiles and drones if it gets itself involved in a full-scale aggression against our country and chooses escalation instead of respecting itself and lifting its blockade.
The Houthis subsequently declared that in response to the Saudi blockade on Yemen, they would impose a reciprocal blockade against Saudi Arabia's shipping through the strategic Strait of Bab el-Mandeb and have targeted 2 Saudi oil tankers transiting the Red Sea on the 22nd of July. Consequently, the Saudi Air Force launched aerial strikes against Houthi military targets on the 24th of July, to which the Houthis responded by launching attacks against Saudi oil facilities in the towns of Jizan and Yanbu.
نفذت القوات المسلحة اليمنية.
The Yemeni armed forces carried out 2 types of military operations. The first targeted sensitive targets at Aramco facilities in Jizan using dozens of ballistic missiles and drones, while the second operation targeted sensitive targets at Aramco facilities in Yanbu using ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and drones.
In contrast to claims of successfully targeting the Aramco oil facilities, the Greek forces operating air and missile defenses in Saudi Arabia have successfully intercepted at least 2 incoming ballistic missiles. Moreover, no injuries or damage were reported. It is worth noting that the United Nations Security Council adopted a resolution last week extending a monthly reporting requirement for the UN Secretary General on attacks by the Houthi terror group in Yemen on merchant and commercial vessels in the Red Sea. Moreover, the report also demands to provide clarity on any weapon smuggling operations by foreign actors to the Houthis in Yemen, which triggered a heated debate between the American and Chinese representatives.
This Council's Resolution 2216 imposed an arms embargo, prohibiting the supply, sale, or transfer of weapons to the Houthis. That prohibition includes, and this is the important point, the prohibition includes the components, the technology, and the dual-use items that feed Houthi missile, drone, and surveillance programs. So we're calling on our colleagues here, we're calling on like-minded nations to take meaningful action in their own regard to intercept and to interdict these dual-use items and to enforce this Council's resolution. States like Iran and to some degree companies and entities in China have violated Resolution 2216 with little consequence.
美方
The accusations leveled by the representative of the U.S. against China are completely baseless. China firmly opposes and categorically rejects those attacks. China consistently and strictly complies with and implements the Council's resolutions, and has maintained a cautious and responsible approach regarding the export of military and dual-use items in accordance with its domestic legal framework and its international obligations. China exercises strict control over such exports. The priority now is for the U.S. to stop creating new conflicts and turmoil in the Middle East.
I just want to respond to my colleague from China who just stated that our concerns were, quote, baseless. I just want to be clear for the Council and for the record, our concerns about dual-use items fueling Houthi terrorist attacks on civilian shipping in the world, that's not from the United States. That's according to data from the United Nations verification and inspection mechanism.
Thank you for watching TV7 Israel News, which is made possible by the generosity of our viewers. Please keep praying for the peace of Jerusalem and redemption of Israel. I'm Jonathan Hassan wishing you an Erev Mevorach. God willing, until our next update, Shalom from Jerusalem.